Are there any ways around paying large deposits up front? What are the positives and negatives of going down this path?
Yeah, certainly. Look, there is a way around having to pay a large deposit up front. A lot of people, just on that, a lot of people do think they need to come up with a 20% deposit. It's not necessarily the truth. You can still get into the market with a 10% or a 15% deposit nowadays. Yes, it will mean that there are additional costs associated with borrowing, mainly what's called mortgage insurance. But when you look at the price of mortgage insurance and you divide it over the amount of years you've got the mortgage, again, it comes down to an opportunity cost. Yes, if I've got 10%, I can get in now. Yes, I've got slightly more fees, but I'm in the market. So hopefully the asset that I've selected will get me the growth to outweigh those costs with those fees.
I think we wrote a blog article on it, and I think we worked out that it was going to cost $63 a month.
Yeah.
But they got to retain, I think, $20,000-$30,000.
Yeah, exactly. And that's if you're in a position where you've got the 20%, then you've got the option of not having to put it all towards the property and having some cash available, so that you might be in a position to invest sooner into more assets, which hopefully you'll have some more growth. But for the cost of, in that scenario, $60 a month, getting into the property sooner rather than waiting and say another 12, 24 months or however long it takes to get the other 20% to avoid the mortgage insurance, you kind of need to weigh up in terms of what the potential growth prospects of the property is in the market versus waiting and getting in when you've got the full 20%. But going back to the original question in terms of other ways around having to have large deposits, there is what's called a family guarantee or a family pledge. And what that means is your parents guarantee the loan by putting their property up. And what that essentially means for yourself is that not only have you got the security of the property you're buying supporting the loan, you've also got mum and dad's property security to support your application. So you can essentially borrow 100% of the cost, 100% of the purchase price plus the costs, meaning you're borrowing roughly 105% of the value of the property. So in that scenario, you don't need a deposit. Obviously, the benefit of that is that you don't need to wait to save up to get in the market. You can potentially get in the market sooner and hopefully ride the capital growth of the property if you've selected the right asset. But the downside, and it is a big downside, is that if something happens to yourself, it's not just you on the hook anymore, it's you and mum and dad's property. So you want to make sure that if you are committing to that loan, then you can make sure you can afford those repayments, but also you can start progressively paying down the loan so that you can release mum and dad's property as soon as you can. So, this discussion needs to be had with mum and dad in terms of the risks associated with the guarantee, and they need to understand what can happen if things do go wrong. But there are ways to mitigate that. So you can, for example, split the loan up, so majority of the loan's against your purchase and only a smaller loan against mum and dad's property. And what that means is the amount that they guarantee is reduced by the amount that's actually secured by their property, but it also gives you a bit of a goal and a target to work towards to pay that down as quickly as you can so that you then own your property by itself with the equity you've built in as well. So in terms of the negatives, it's certainly a negative that obviously you're involving mum and dad, which maybe not ideal if something goes wrong, but it's also, given that you don't have the deposit, it's going to take you a lot longer to build equity in that property than if you would have saved the deposit yourself and then got in the other way. So again, it's an opportunity cost. Yep, you can get in now with no deposit. Hopefully, if there's been growth over those few years, you get that growth. But obviously the risk is that you are involving mum and dad, and something happens, they're also on the hook as well.
And with such an expensive loan size comparable to the property value, I guess asset selection would be important to make sure you get that capital growth.
Yeah, spot on. And look with all the information that we give to our clients, and if you are looking at property, you need to be doing your research on the property itself in terms of potential growth aspect. I know this might be your first home and it's somewhere you want to live and settle down, but it is still an investment decision. So you want to look at, when you're buying the asset, different types of factors that will go into potentially, hopefully, increasing the value of that property. So spend your time, understand the suburb, understand the demographics and the demand for properties in that suburb, and select a property that you know that's going to get good growth qualities going forward. We look forward to receiving your questions, and you can post your questions either on our YouTube channel, our Facebook page, or you can private message us on Facebook. Send through your questions and we look forward to answering them.